Okay, just a little bit here. My name's Moshe. I'm coming to you from Israel and the Galilee. Perhaps those of you that study the Bible have heard of the Galilee. And I've lived here for many years. And I have gone through several wars here, including the current one and others. And I've know all about terrorist attacks from living here, and I'm plugging my charger in. And I grew up in America, and I have a law enforcement background when I was in America as a young guy. Not an extensive one, but I worked in different agencies, and I have no military experience whatsoever. I want to explain that to you. I did get a bachelor's degree in criminology and corrections, and then I got a master's in business, left law enforcement, and went as a businessman. What I'm going to do today is explain to you how Hamas, Hezbollah, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and all these other groups work from my experiences in Israel. And I want to start off by telling you that Hamas has made threats from inside America, the people that preach in the mosque, mullahs and stuff like that. And they're as of, I don't know, 48 hours ago or so, they're calling on the Muslims in America to rise up against America. And they're saying America is having you follow a standard of Islam that's Americanized, and it's not real Islam. And America is an enemy of Islam. They're not saying the churches, they're not saying the Jews. They're saying America. The whole country. Now, they have, these terrorist groups have slogans, like they say, first the Saturday people, that's us, then the Sunday people, that's the churches. And then they say Israel is the little Satan and America is the big Satan. You can check this in Google. Those are slogans they've used for years and decades, I think. And your time has come for this, and it's in the Bible, which I'll cover today too. But Hamas is calling for the mullahs in the mosques to rise up against these people. Why are they not being arrested? Why is Biden leaving the border open for so long? On my Telegram, I put up a interview with the sheriff of, I think it's Pinellas County, which is right by, it's some miles, I think 50 miles from the border with Mexico. And he thinks during the Biden term of presidency that there's someplace between 2 and 4 million, or more, he said, that have crossed the border illegally. And they're being transported by the American government to different cities around the country. Other experts have said that 70% of these people coming in are military-age males. Now, normally, if it was a regular influx of aliens coming in from Mexico, the amount of military-age males would probably be no more than about 20%. So it's 3.5 times higher. These are my figures only. People would usually come in with small children, lots of females, elderly people, married couples, etc. Not just single draft age males. The FBI has said in recent weeks that the terrorist threat in America is off the charts. The red lights are going off all over the place. That's the FBI publicly declaring that. and this is all not a lie. You could talk to other sheriffs around the border and law enforcement people. They have interviews on YouTube. They're all saying the same thing. Texas is defying America and putting up what they're calling climb-proof wall barriers. They have razor ribbon all over the wall, not just on the top. Because they don't want this anymore. But the people that you talk to will also tell you that the cow is out of the barn. They're already there. Now, you're not just getting Hamas, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Hezbollah, Al-Fatah, and other groups. You're getting Chinese, North Koreans, Iranian, and Russian agents. And the sleeper agent theory is no secret. It's all over the internet. Now they're proclaiming in the mosques in America, the big leaders, to defend Islam against its enemies, which is America. And this is coming from within America. So you've reached a point where it's going to start. From my years in Israel, and I actually worked in law enforcement in Israel as a reserve cop. It wasn't a great job. I mean, it was a volunteer job. It was quite a few years ago, but I had police powers, I had ID, and I carried a gun. And back then, I never had a gun in the house. When I went to work, I drew a gun. I used an M1 carbine, which I really liked. It was a Korean War vintage gun. It gave me an advantage of a good club. You'll find I know a lot about guns. And when I say I know a lot about guns, I mean I know a whole lot about guns, okay? And I've also had decades of martial arts experience, all right? So and now I'm an old man, okay? With lousy vision, and I'm feeble and all that. Okay, it happens, right? So I'm a believer for many years. And I liked it because it shot a 110 grain bullet, which was full metal jacket, at about 1,600 some odd feet per second, which would go through a small car, which is what we have in Israel. It wouldn't go through an engine block, I don't think, maybe a very small one, but if you're talking about going through car doors, if some jerk is hiding behind a car and, trying to kill you, you can go through the doors of the passenger compartment very easily. So I liked it. And I was able to shoot it real good, When I used to go out on patrol, I was not always on foot patrol, but heavily. They sent us out in pairs. And we wore civilian clothes with a vest that said police on it in English and Hebrew. And we'd have a radio a lot of the times. And I was patrolling in a city. And I came in contact with the more sophisticated security forces, not just the police, but Shin Bet and stuff like that. And I didn't have a lot of favorable experiences with Shin Bet. They came across to me like thugs. For instance, this is decades ago. I would I was in the police station once, and we had a high alert. And well, I'll explain what a high alert looks like. The police station has metal fences around it, metal bars, right? And they were open, and the captain was standing out in front of the station in the driveway. And the cars would pull in, and he would give them orders, and they'd report, and he'd send them back out again. This is what an alert looks like. And there's tons of us with arms, pistols, rifles, Uzis. Back then we had Uzis. Uzis look, the Uzi, if you want to go into a house or a room or a cave or a tunnel, and you're expecting terrorists inside, and you're probably no more than, let's say, 50 feet from your adversaries, the Uzi's great. But with that M1, I could be surgical at 100 yards, not with an Uzi, let alone on full auto. You could set the Uzi to semi, but, you know. So we had police on the roof of the police station with long guns, on the roof. So there was hardly anybody in the police station, so there was probably some sort of fear of it being hit with Molotovs or rockets. And the Shin Bet, well, then later on I went in the police station. I don't remember why. Someone asked me to go inside or come in, or I don't know what it was. And there's some Shin Bet guy, and he's talking to me in Hebrew, and he says, "Do you have a light?" I said, "No." Then he says, "Why don't you have a light?" You see how they are? Because I don't smoke. And then he makes a funny face. See, that's not the way you behave. I've been on police departments. You don't treat each other that way. That's the kind of thing you get in a bar when somebody wants to pick a fight with you. I was in no shape, well, not physically, I probably could have dropped the guy, but I was not in any mood to have a fight with the guy. I was just going to stand there and keep my mouth shut no matter what he said. You know, then he picked up on that, and then he just decided to move away. This is the kind of thing I saw with them, you know. And once I was having a dispute over a parking space, and I was getting ready to park, and this guy shot in front, and I'm not going to tell you how I knew he was Shin Bet, but I did. And he was just nasty and obnoxious, and oh my gosh, you know. So I just let him have the space, you know. I mean, ridiculous, you know. So anyway, they work like the FBI in America. They work as internal security. They don't go to France or other countries or anything like that. They will at times operate in Gaza. Do they go into Syria and Lebanon? I'm not going to get into that, you know. Our troops go in too, you know, but dressed as Arabs. And this is, let's just move off of that. So, before I get into it, I want to tell you that Hamas has a habit of making good on their threats. Not 100%, but pretty stinking high. Really up there. And when they said they're going to do terrorism in America, I would say it's real, and I expect it, and it's going to go down. And as we get into the broadcast, I'm going to explain to you how they work. How they worked on October 7th in Israel when they did that Holocaust on us, I think 1,450 people. I'm going to explain that to you, how they did it and how they operate, and I'm going to make you aware of what to expect in America. Okay? And the value of this is, number one, biblically being a watchman, and more than half of my people that have subscribed and follow me on Telegram, Twitter, and YouTube are American. So Hamas also threatened the UK, and I have people in the UK too, a bunch. And I want them to also be aware of what they're going to do. And I'm going to show you and explain to you the things that you can do if they attack you or your home. And they are going to do your homes, I think. Like they did ours on October 7th. And I'm going to explain to you some things you can do to them that they're not going to expect. Okay. While I'm an accomplished martial artist, I would say, for decades, this is not going to be anything you want to consider against these people. I mean, if they take you captive and you happen to have gone to karate school for 18 years or something like that, you could try something like that, but if they take you captive, there's probably going to be a group of them and you're not going to make it. They're bloodthirsty. They consider it an honor to kill you because you're an infidel. To be an infidel, you just have to be a non-Muslim, and they will kill without hesitation. Okay? Probably worse than a serious cartel gang member. They're that cold-blooded. Okay? And they're brutal. They took women and children on October 7th and tied them together with metal wire and burned them alive. They cut a fetus out of a woman. We found her dead body with the baby laying there on the floor with it's still attached with the umbilical cord. They raped women to death, and we found their pelvis bones were broken. Now, there's also martial art moves at the karate school. I'll just talk a little bit about this. The karate schools, the kung fu schools, and, you know, Brazilian jiu-jitsu and all these guys aren't going to teach you. And then, you know, they have a basic kick in all these martial arts, which is a front kick. It could be with the heel in kung fu. It could be with the ball of the foot. In savat, it's with the toes because they wear reinforced shoes and blah, 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 to the groin, to the testicles. There's another kick that they don't want to teach you, and that's the kick into the pelvis and break the pelvis. Now that stops the fight. Kicking people in the groin doesn't often stop the fight. If they're drunk, stoned, drugs, various list of drugs, they're probably going to be able to keep going. They're going to be aware of someone discomfort and pain, but they can keep going. Okay? But when you break the pelvis, and it's not that hard, you've got to have, you know, you're not going to be a 90-day wonder and just kick somebody and break their pelvis. You've got to be in it a few years, and you break their pelvis, guess what happens? Do they collapse? Yup. Is the fight over? Yup. Is the pain excruciatingly painful to the point where they may pass out? Yup. Okay, they don't teach this, you see. They don't teach real... The real martial arts were taught by Fairburn in World War II to the OSS. It was basically about 6 months, not even 6 months of training, maybe less. There were no katas, there were no forms, there were no sets, and they used weapons heavily, but they did teach unarmed combat. And you can find that stuff on YouTube. Now, when I was in high school in the 60s, there was a guy in New York, in the Bronx, where I grew up, that was teaching this to students, and he ran a 6-month course. And a guy that did that for 6 months and a guy that went to karate school for 12 years, the 6-month guy would mop the floor with the karate guy. Boxers mop the floor with 4th and 5th and 6th and 7th degree black belts all the time. All right. Let me do a few things, like go into the chat and make sure everything's working and people have had time to come in, and then we're going to get started. And I'm also going to give you the specific Bible prophecies for what's happening to America right now with this terrorist attack. Okay? And they're in Jeremiah 50 and 51, not exclusively, but mostly. Okay, so I need to do a couple of tiny things in the chat. It's not going to take a long time, but Jeremiah. All right, we got sound and we got picture. That's good. Just put up with me. I'm going as fast as I can. Almost there, guys. All right, let's see if I got this right. Got it right. No. Working fast, guys. Doing it as quick as I can. Okay. Since we're a Bible believing site, Old Testament, New Testament to me, we'll do our praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 All right. Now, before I get into the Bible, for those of you that just want to get intel, I'll explain how these Hamas Hezbollah people work. Number one, they're jihadists, which means they go into this thing expecting to get killed, become a martyr, and immediately go to heaven and have all kinds of blessings, including 70 virgins. They dedicate their children to martyrdom right after they're born. They train the children that are, waist high to kill Jews and infidels in the schools and other places and in the mosques. To be a martyr is revered. Okay? So they're not afraid of dying. And they're also brutal. They decapitate people with dull knives, literally dull knives. The Japanese would do that with a very finely honed katana sword. And they would put oil on the blade of the sword. So when it went through, it would pass easier. They don't do that. They use junky, cheap, lousy kitchen knives and they do it. I've seen videos of it. Okay? Now, they take drugs when they do terrorism. They have, I think it's kind of like an ecstasy hybrid or something. It makes them feel euphoric, bold, and courageous, and it also numbs them from pain. And they give it to women terrorists, lone wolves. And they'll attack a soldier or a policeman or a regular woman, man, or child with a knife, a kitchen knife usually. And they don't have a good Spyderco sharpener or one of those turning wheel sharpeners or, junky knife. And they run up on people and plunge the knife into them like some junkie in the street that's trying to rob somebody for a fix. If the person doesn't give them the money, they start stabbing him with a knife, and the person eventually slouches down or falls down, and after a few pokes, and then they go and go through the pockets, the purse, and find what they want and run away. All those people care about is they feel bad, they feel like they have a flu. I used to see people when I worked in a county jail in California as a deputy. I used to see them withdraw. When you brought them in off the street, the junkies would see them withdraw. And they'd sit outside on a table or a bench in the sun on the nice days, and they would be sweating. And they'd get chills and then hot, and it like having a flu. And it's mostly about 24 hours. It's not that bad, but when they feel bad, the junkie's psychology collapses because he has all these horrible thoughts. He's out of euphoria and he starts realizing. So they want to get, they call it getting well. They want to get well quick, and they come up on people, and generally they're not going to have a gun, because if they had the gun, they'd sell it to get a fix. That's how desperate they are. So they'll have a knife or some other weapon in there, or they might try to strong arm you. They look for, they're predators, and they look for the weak one, the one that's not going to defend themselves. So if you're 6'2" and you weigh 220 and you work out, if they have a gun, they'll tackle you, but they're not going to want to hit somebody like that. They'd rather get somebody that's 78 years old and has a cane or feeble, and you know, that's the kind of thing they go for. Okay, they're not out to have a fight with you. So when they see resistance, they got two choices. One, if they have a weapon, is to proceed with the attack with the weapon, and then when you're down, take the money and go see the pusher man and get well, or run away and find another victim. They go both ways. They're not out to have a fight with you and see who's tougher. You know, they're not looking for that. They're agitated, they're nervous, they're aggravated, they could be hearing voices or noises in their head. They're nuts. All right, the jihadist is not that. The jihadist goes out there knowing they're going to die. They attack some women or children in Israel with a firearm. A lot of them are made in basements. A lot of them are real good firearms. They vary. AK-47 can be a good weapon. Some of them, can be junk. It depends where they were made and when they were made. But a good one is a good gun. And it's got a very potent round. Okay? The AR-15, M16 type guns, or the Tabor in Israel, the .223, 5.56, they're generally running about 50 grains at a very high speed, around 3,200 feet per second. So you have a very small bullet, okay, that's about, a 32 caliber pistol round is usually about 65 grains. This is 55. So it's not a very big bullet. I don't care for it myself. I'd rather use a 308 or a 30-06 or something, but they are deadly. I've seen videos of terrorists get shot one time with them, and they're quite deadly, and they're quite potent. People misjudge them, and they have very little recoil and muzzle flash. They're easy to shoot. So they take them down, and they're usually down. Sometimes they get up because they take this drug. And you've got to shoot them multiple times because if you're going to use a handgun. A 9mm or a 38 special is probably, for revolvers, is probably the bare minimum you should use. I'm a fan of things like the 10mm, 45 ACP, 357 Magnum. But even those, somebody hopped up on this drug, you could shoot them with pistols and hit them 3-4 times, and they're still coming. Now, 30 seconds, even 20 seconds later, they're probably going to be on the floor, but you can't call time out. They're still coming at you with a knife, a club, whatever they got, before they collapse. They're not going to go for 10 minutes with a few bullet holes in them. They're not going to, they're not going to do that, but they might go for even 45 seconds or something like that. They're dangerous. Now, what does Hamas have in mind with this? We combined this with very recent, like within 48 hours, headlines on YouTube and other social media that China has been working cyber attacks in America and planning large cyber attacks against America. Russia too. North Korea also. Now, Israel has an excellent, our military has a cyber division, and we're very good at it. We get attacked with regularity from the Muslims, and they've got close proximity to us, whatever that's worth. And they usually can't get anything done, or if they do, it's very fast, minutes, maybe an hour, something like that. It's not common, it's pretty unusual. They do sometimes find targets that get hit, like a hospital, that are not as heavily defended, but we're very, very well defended. Our police, our security forces, everything. America is not that way. We don't have a disjointed military, police in Israel. We have a national police force. America doesn't have that. If 5 terrorists are coming to your house, kicking the door and shooting, you can't call the FBI or Homeland Security. They don't respond to that stuff. Okay? You call your city police, your county sheriff. That's it. And they are not defended against cyber attacks, are they? Now, if you start talking about the very large police departments, like, let's say over 5,000 people, even then they're not defended. Do you think New York City, which has, 38,000 combined police, now they have regular police, they incorporated the transit police into the regular police, they have a sanitation police, and they got, all kinds of odds and ends, district attorney investigators of police, all this stuff. And they have state police too, believe it or not. There's they operate like a highway patrol, and they got alcoholic beverage control, narcotics on a state level, and things of this nature, right? They're not well defended against a cyber attack, if they're even defended at all. So what I perceive they're going to do with this China taking out the grid is find cities that have smallish police departments, and you're probably looking at cities. They probably like to hit cities under 25,000 population, but they could even easily go up to 200,000, stuff like that. But it's hard to control a city like that. Now the next question comes, where are they going to hit people in Alabama, Missouri, Mississippi, Georgia, where they're all packing guns? They might, and we'll get into how they do that, because I've seen this, how it happens. Okay. October 7th is a very recent example. If they can blow the grid out, the police departments that got 60 guys, 100 guys, they probably don't even have generators to run their electricity if it goes out. Now, what does that mean? That means they have no communications. That means the radios are not working. The car radios will work. But the base station, where the commanders are, is not going to work. The cell phones in the community are going to be out. The cops aren't going to be able to work with cell phones. The cell phones have batteries that last a while, but there's going to be no signal because the towers are going to go dark, no electricity. So what are the police resorting to do? Well, they'll be in confusion. Believe me, a lot of these police, are nothing more than mercenaries. It's not hard for policemen to earn a good living today. With overtime, there's tons of cops that are breaking $100,000 a year. That's right. Tons. And correction officers. Okay? And the higher ranking ones could easily get into the 150, 180,000 in a lot of places. The ones that are, they sometimes use military ranks like majors and colonels, usually highway patrols. The city and the sheriff police usually go with, they might have a corporal, or, then they'll have like a one-stripe uniform guy, a two-stripe, then a sergeant, then maybe have another level of sergeant, then they'll have a lieutenant, and then a captain, and then from there they go into unusual rankings, commanders, commissioners, and things like this. they're in it for the money. They're in it as a job. They don't care about the community. It's not the old days, 60, 80 years ago, 100 years ago, where they were members of the community caring for the community. A lot of them don't even live in the community. They don't care. So when this happens, what are they going to do? They're going to hide someplace. That's what they're going to do. They're not going to go handle crimes that they see because there's no backup. Police work when they have the majority and they're out and they outgun the adversary. When that's not the case, they're going to hide. I was one. Believe me, they're going to hide. I'm going to be right back in a minute. Okay. When the communications are out in a small city, now they could try taking cities that are 3,000. Remember, the Fed is moving these illegals all over the United States. And you better ask yourself a question. Why is Biden allowing this for 2.5 years? Even his own FBI is telling him that it's a terrorist threat. And you got to understand, the cow's out of the barn. If Biden closes the border today, it's not helping. To round them up would take years. It's over. They're in. And it's coming, and it's going to happen, and it's going to happen in the fairly immediate future. When they threaten, they're not going to fulfill it 2 or 3 months down the road. Maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You're going to see mobs of protesters, probably in the larger cities. I made myself a little cup of soup. I haven't eaten anything all day. And they're going to do looting, and they're going to break people, and they're going to attack people, and they're going to pull people out of cars and break into stores, and fires. They love fire. They launch incendiary balloons from Gaza into Israel, and I will explain. They take a cluster of balloons like you'd give somebody in the hospital that just had a baby or something like that, maybe 8, 10, 12 balloons, depending, right? They get helium in them. They bring it in from Egypt. They smuggle it in. They have tunnels going into Egypt. They fill the balloons, and they put a little basket or a container at the bottom, which has some incendiary material in it. There's different things that you could use. And they calculate the wind. They have a basic fuse. They light the fuse, which is going to go for minutes. And the balloon floats over the border wall into Israel and lands. And then the fuse hits the incendiary material and you have a fire. They burned thousands of acres of agricultural land in the South like this. Thousands. It rarely will set a house on fire. Almost never. The houses in Israel are made out of, this is going to be important, they're made out of concrete block and tile and concrete. Okay? The structures are concrete. Got it? It's not easy to burn a concrete house. It could cause cars to catch on fire and so forth. What will stop them from doing this in America? They go up to the roof of their building, or they go out at 2 o'clock in the morning on a weeknight and start launching stuff. Or they go to an apartment building that's 25 stories high. They have an apartment on the 20th floor and just start floating them off of the balcony. You can get helium all you want in America, helium balloons. What are you going to do? They have another kind of balloon they float that has an improvised explosive device inside. And it's the same helium balloons with a basket. And in the basket they put a teddy bear or a doll. And it's booby-trapped to the explosive device. It floats into Israel, it lands, and they hope some child goes to pick it up. And when they go to pick up the doll or the teddy bear, boom, they'll blow their arms off. Yeah, they do that. How many times? Thousands. Tell me why they wouldn't do that in America. I don't think they're going to be after teddy bears and stuff. We've educated the children about that. they'll go after the incendiary. But they don't need a cyber attack for that. It'll help because the fire department will be disabled, as well as the ambulances and the police. So it's going to be hard to get reports that there's a fire somewhere and go over there. It's going to be difficult. But that's not why they're doing cyber. They're planning on knocking out the grid. These people can take over communities like they did on October 7th in Israel. Some kibbutzes that they took over have thousands of people on them. I've seen videos of the bodies strewn all over the place. They massacred people. And they killed them horrifically very often. A lot of times they just shot them at distance, but don't think these people are not dangerous. They're extremely dangerous. They don't care about dying. They're going into battle to die. Okay? Now, all these militias and survivalists and gun collectors, which I was once one, I estimate I probably shot somewhere near 100,000 rounds in my life. I took private pistol shooting courses from one I took was 8 days with Jeff Cooper's range master. And he really taught me how to shoot the 45. I'm such an old fogey. When I was a deputy sheriff, they were teaching us point shooting. And you can make point shooting work, but it's hard. I mean, I learned how to do it. You can learn it, but it's not the best. They don't really teach it much anymore. That's where you hold your arm parallel to the ground. When you do that, you don't have to worry about missing up and down. You're going to get a hit. You just got to worry about left and right and trigger pull and stuff like that. It's not so simple, but it works. Especially at 21 feet or less, which is where the vast majority of police shootings are. These are not your street punks or gangbangers that can shoot where they lay the gun horizontal and they go within 2 feet of you and shoot you. These are not that. These are people that could easily hit you at 100 feet. Okay? Easily. And they're using rifles, so the regular bullet-resistant vest that the police have isn't going to work. The police put a ceramic plate inside their vest over the heart, which more than anything is for psychological protection. It's not going to be much good. An AK-47 is 125 grains traveling at about 2450 feet per second out of an AK-47. It'll go right through cars. It'll probably go right through engine blocks with full metal jacket, which is normally what they use. And it'll cut right through their bulletproof vests. It'll cut through 2 bulletproof vests. At 3, it'll stop it. That's what the testings show. Who the heck's going to run around wearing 3 bulletproof vests? It's going to be like, I don't know, 6-7 inches thick. Nobody's going to do that. So the ceramic plate is small, maybe 6x4 over the heart, but the bullets are going to hit all over the place. They're frequently shooting full auto. Not going to help the cops. Not going to stop them. There's another kind of vest called a plate carrier, where you take either a ceramic plate or a steel plate and you put it in this canvas thing with straps over your shoulders and around your waist that It's usually something like 10 by 12 inches. It could be 14 by 10 or something like that. Covers a major portion of your chest cavity. And it will stop an AK-47. The ceramic plate breaks as soon as it takes one bullet. So if you're getting sprayed by 6 bullets or something like that, it's probably going to break down and you're going to get pretty good damage from the bullets. If you wear the steel plate, it's going to hold up for, 30, 40 rounds or something like this. The steel plates are typically 7 pounds each. So you got 14 pounds on you. Probably plus 2 pounds for the carrier. Most people aren't going to wear that. That's the military usually wears that, but the ceramic plates are much lighter. So if you're really worried about it, get yourself a plate carrier and get the steel plates in it. That'll stop it, but it's not going to protect your head, your arms, your shoulders, your legs, your pelvis, none of that. So it's not the answer. Okay? That's not your best protection. So they're going to probably start a lot of fires. Now, let me tell you what happened in Israel. We have houses, as I said, that are concrete block, made out of concrete block and tile. And the windows are usually not barred, although there are houses that do have bars. So they come to a house, and we all have, by law, bomb shelters in the house. They're made out of reinforced concrete, and they work. Okay? They stop warheads from missiles, even on a direct hit. They're quite thick. I have one in my house. It's actually just about right underneath where I'm sitting. And they have steel doors with hinges on the inside, and they're thick. Half inch. They vary, but at least a half inch. And then inside you have a handle you throw made out of solid steel. So you can't really open the door because it's in a steel frame in a reinforced concrete wall. And then we have a window that is made out of, again, very thick steel. And it has that latch handle that stops it from opening. But there's a way to open it from the outside for rescues, where they have a special tool, which Hamas did not carry with them, where they could take the window off and go in and rescue. But what people do is they just make a hole in the concrete and then put a rod in there made out of metal that'll stop it from opening. There's different things they do. So the people heard the gunshots, and there was thousands of Hamas running around. So they went into the bomb shelter and they shut the door. The bomb shelter's at the lower level of the house usually. And they locked themselves in there. You can't shoot through this. You're not going to hand grenade through it. And a rocket-propelled grenade would damage it, but I don't think you'd get in. You'd have to keep repeating it. And keep hitting the same spot. They didn't do that. They didn't have those. So they couldn't get in. The people weren't responding. They weren't coming out. Hey, come out. You'll be okay. Blah, blah, blah. No, they weren't listening. They heard them talking Arabic. They weren't coming out. So what did they do? They burned the house. Fire. They burned the house. they had special kind of grenades that were made for this purpose. Hamas had. They were military grade, not homemade, and they would throw them. A lot of times they couldn't get in the house. The doors in Israel are frequently made out of metal, two thin pieces of metal. It would stop a 9mm. It wouldn't stop an AK-47. It would maybe stop a 45. It'd stop pistol ammo probably, or deflect it off its trajectory or something like that. But it wouldn't stop rifles. But if you're trying to break it in, nah. It when you lock it, it has bolts at the top and the bottom, and on both sides. And the locks are rather sophisticated. So Hamas isn't picking locks, okay? So you can't kick these doors in. They're in a metal frame in a concrete house, and you're not getting in that way. So they tried to kick the doors in, and they couldn't get the doors in. And the people were inside the bomb shelter. So what they did is they took their rifle butts and they smashed the windows and broke the windows out and climbed in through the windows. They stole things, they wrecked the house, and then they couldn't get the people out. They burned the house and the people died. You got smoke inhalation, you got heat. They didn't make it. They burned the people in the bomb shelters. On a few occasions, they did manage to break through the door, and they got the people, and they were doing horrific things, killing the parents in front of the children, killing the children in front of the parents, and all this stuff, and taking them hostage and raping them. And they're still captive inside Gaza, a bunch. So the survivalists, the militia, the gun collectors, I have no understanding of their use of fire. None. They burn cars. Okay. They took Israeli civilians and put them inside cars, locked them in the car, and then burned them in the car. And they burn houses. So how do you protect your house from this? In America, not easily, because to start with, you need to have a house built out of concrete block, tile, and cement, and not wood. And you'd have to have a door that was made out of metal, that they sell them in America, that had the pins on all four sides, with no windows near the door, nothing, so they can't kick the door in. And what about the windows? Just smash the windows in, 90% of the houses, 80%? Some have metal bars on the windows. Will that stop them? It will, from entering the house. I encountered that in Israel. They just throw these incendiary devices through the bars of the window. They break the glass. They bang the rifle butt against the glass in between the bars. And then they throw incendiary devices inside the house. If you had a few good-sized fire extinguishers, would you be able to manage it? Yes. Go try to find one survivalist or prepper-oriented site that scares the people all the time, so they buy survival food and crap like that from them, and see if they talk about fire extinguishers. No. It never even occurs to them. So, how could you protect your windows? Well, you have to get these metal screens, if you will, that have like a diamond shape. They're usually made out of a good aluminum, maybe an eighth of an inch thick, something like that. It bolt into the frame of the house, and the openings are usually just about like that. So they can't get any good incendiary device in there. Okay? But your average American house is not going to do this. They have sliding glass doors to the backyard. They have lots of windows. They have garage doors that are a piece of cake to get through. Right? So what can you do? Well, unless you're the type of person that wants to spend many thousands of dollars, you can get your house hurricane proofed, where they change all the glass and the doors and the garage door to sustain like 130 or 160 mile an hour wind. And these windows are not, they don't break very easily. I imagine with an axe and the point on the axe you're going to get through, but they're not carrying axes with them. So they're not going to get through the window. And they're not going to get the doors down. And they're not going to get in your garage. And if they go up into your chimney on the roof, it's not going to be critical. They're just throwing something down in the chimney, and you could just, it's brick and concrete. It's not going to burn your house, you know. You have a grate or a chain gate or something like that, and for a curtain in front of it, it's probably not going to do much. Going after gas lines and things like that, I think is over their head. Okay? They don't do that. The people that are playing the prepper survivalist militia game don't understand this. Okay? Now, if they start taking over smaller communities, they're not going to take over New York City. Okay? That's a big bite of the apple, too big for them. But they could find little communities. They're trying to create terror and fear and submission. That's what the word means. Their religion word means, Islam, I think, means submission. They want you to submit to them. That means you give them your wealth and you become a slave for them. That's their definition of it. Or you die. So they're going to create terror and fear in America. That's what this is designed to do. Will they take these people hostage? I don't think so. Where are they going to take them to? They don't have their own country next door to America. Yeah, you know, the Mexicans may try doing that, but I wouldn't expect much of that at all. I don't think they're going to do that. It doesn't fit. If they're going to try to hold the city, which they could do, you know, let's say you're talking a city of 100,000, and they come in and go on a terror rampage in ranks of 1,000, they could try to hold a portion of the city or the city and have a few houses with 200 or 300 hostages. They don't expect to get out alive. They're not worried about it. They're going to stay there and try to have their other compatriots that are hitting other places get some sort of negotiated ceasefire where they could get out of jail free or something like that, which isn't going to work, but they'll try it. And hold hostages, which will be abused to the max. They took a baby and put it in an oven and cooked it alive. We saw a video of that on October 7th. You got to understand what you're dealing with. Most people don't. Okay? Now, you know, when this starts, certain communities are going to form an Operation Watch. That's not going to be under the control of the police department. The people in the community are going to organize, and they're going to go on patrols with their own vehicles in their neighborhood, and they're going to set up checkpoints where you would come in from the major streets and things like this and look for this. Will that be effective? Yes. How many communities will do it? Not enough. Not enough. Do the gun nuts and the survivalists and the preppers have very good guns and know how to use them? Absolutely. Better guns than Hamas will ever have. Can they plink at them as snipers and not get shot by Hamas? Absolutely. But you don't understand the volume of numbers that you're looking at. Okay? If they try to take over a community, they're going to go house to house. They can't get into the house and they can't get the people. They want to rob the people too. They want your money. They want your jewelry. They want your food, good food, maybe, probably. And they want your guns and ammo and survival equipment. It's essential for them. They want that bad. Because they know that the regular gun nut, let's call them gun nuts, preppers, survivalists, are going to have better guns than they have. And they're going to want them. You got a gun safe. They put a gun in your mouth until you open the safe and will kill you. Or they'll take one of the children and put a gun to the head, open the safe, okay. You don't open the safe, they'll kill the kid, then they'll go to the wife, put a gun on her head, and you'll open the safe eventually. Or they'll kill you and the safe won't get opened. People don't understand what they're dealing with. Okay? They don't understand it. Now, if they try to come in your house, how does that work? You live in a community they decide to target, and you've got a private house, and you're a prepper, and you got 2 kids that you know how to shoot, and your wife and you know how to shoot, and you got plenty of guns and thousands of rounds of ammo, so what? They come around, and you start shooting them when they start approaching the house. You'll kill some of them, for sure. Then what's going to happen? They're going to spray heavy machine gun fire from the AKs into your house. Will you get hit or not? Probably get hit, some of you. And then what? They'll try to breach the house again. If they don't get in, and they're still taking fire, they might throw incendiary devices through the window, or simply Molotov cocktails, which is a bottle with combustible gasoline or something, and they put things in to thicken it, and they throw it through the window, and they got a fire going in the house, and then just sit around and watch it burn, or wait to see if you're going to run out of the house. You got a choice. See what I'm saying? The fire is essential to them. They love using fire. It's cheap, it's easy, and highly effective, and the people in America are not prepared for it. How many of these preppers and survivalists are going to sit there with good-sized fire extinguishers and have 5 or 6 of them on hand? Like, none? How many of them have a mask where they can breathe in smoke? Some of them have masks against toxic agents. They do have that. Okay. The ones with the bug out locations are not set up to fight fire. They can't do it either. Most of them use wood houses, not all, but some do. They can't do it. you have to have metal shutters over your windows and all it made out of brick and concrete. And then you could sustain. And you know what? They'll just leave. After they make a few attempts at you and they can't get in and they're getting shot up because you got portholes, they'll leave. I agree. And then you won. You're around for another day. What are you going to do? Walk outside? Go fishing? They'll kill you. They'll be running around the community. They'll burn your cars. They'll rip out your electrical lines, everything. I'll be right back. Will the guns be a serious deterrent to these terrorists hitting the houses? Yes. But it won't stop them. Jenin is a city in the West Bank of Israel. Biblically, it's called Samaria in Judea. And these terrorists fight against our military to the death. The Israeli military is not a joke. Okay? We're not the Bangladesh Special Forces. Okay? We're right up there with the best of them. Israel has 42 special forces, different kinds. And they're all trained like a year. They're like recon Marines, Rangers, stuff like that. We have Navy SEALs, Shayelet. We don't select our special forces and pilots, well, with special forces. We don't select them by, can they go through Hell Week? We're not interested in that. Most of these guys will run maybe 2-3 miles. If you got to run 12 miles, I mean, there's a real problem, you know? And they'll be able to do some push-ups and sit-ups and pull-ups and all of that and run an obstacle course, but that's just lightweight training. We don't put much energy in that. What we look for is somebody that will stay cool under pressure. Like he penetrates into Syria, and he's a few miles inside Syria, creeping around in the wilderness, and a patrol of soldiers is coming up on him. He should never be near a path that the military is likely to use. But let's say it happens, and he's cowering around in the woods 12, 15 feet away from where they're making camp. He's a cool cookie, and he'll sit there all night, very still, not panic, not try to make a run for it, as long as he feels they don't know he's there. And wait till they leave. Will Navy SEALs and, recon Marines do that also at times? Yeah. But we're not selecting them for physical capability. That's not anything that we're that excited about. We're not looking for people to go kung fu the enemy, That's like with our pilots. Our pilots have to be able to, get dumped upside down in water and orient and take G-forces and have good vision and hearing and all that. But what are we really looking for? Multitasking. When things start going wrong and 3 or 4 things go wrong at the same time, will the pilot stay cool and calm and do rational things to get out of this mess? Or become irrational and freak out? See, that's the stuff we're looking for. That's why our pilots are so good. And I worked at a kibbutz years ago, and the guy that had the cubicle behind me was in Shayelet, which is the Navy SEALs. He was, on his best day, I don't think he could do 50 good push-ups. Okay. And he was in the reserves for this. He was called up and go to duty. I doubt he could do 50. Probably 25. Maybe he could knock off 50 sit-ups, 60, 70. I don't think he did 100. Maybe. They're not looking for this kind of training. Could the guy swim a lot of miles? Oh, yeah. That's what he's trained for, fighting in the water. Was he skilled at fighting another Navy frogman in the water with knives? I doubt it. I doubt they ever even taught that. What are the odds of that ever happening? Why would you want to waste your time training on something that's never going to happen? He'd infiltrate by water, get reconnaissance, maybe sabotage things, and then get out by water. They're trained for parachuting into water. They know how to use all kinds of warfare weapons and transportation equipment in the water. How to use all kinds of explosives and, things like this. They're also trained in ground fighting. They're very effective. Just like Navy SEALs. Very similar. But you're not looking at the Incredible Hulk. They're not interested in this. There are units that are going to take guys that look like Schwarzenegger or something like that, but, they're going to be doing not critical things, maybe protecting prisoners, guarding prisons and stuff like that. They're not looking for this. No point in it. They're proficient with pistols, they're proficient with rifles, they're proficient with all the enemy weapons. So they can pick up enemy weapons, but America trains them this way too. But what Israel's looking for is their mind. How they work under extreme life and death pressure where it looks like everything's coming to an end for them. How do they behave? Pilots, special forces, that's what they're looking for. And our special forces we've got them for the snow, we got them for mountains, we got them for deserts, we got them for water, we got them for inner cities, we got them for all different types of scenarios. And they're highly trained. A lot of them, I believe, have to extend their enlistment by a year, and they're going to get a year of training. And the kids in Israel love going into special forces. They love it. And it's dangerous. It's not easy. When you look at the movies and the TV, you think, oh, but it's not that way. You're frequently behind enemy lines, and if they detect you, you're going to be with maybe 5 or 6 other guys, maybe 8 or 9. "25 guys come at you with military weapons because they're trained soldiers and start firing on you. And then they call for reinforcement, and then helicopters come. Other soldiers come, you're dead. Or you surrender. You're not going to get out of there. So they have to escape detection. So anyway, all this preppers and survivalists, what's their heavy orientation? Food. Why? Because the people that talk about how to be a prepper and a survivalist and a militia are selling them the food. You don't need survival food. Canned food in metal cans is going to last for as long as the survival food will. And the survival food is junk. You think dehydrated food made in a powder, put in a plastic tub of 10 pounds is healthy for you? How good could it be after you dehydrated it and rehydrated? Assuming you have good water to rehydrate it. I'd rather have canned salmon, tuna, sardines, canned chicken, canned beef, soups that have meat in them, canned vegetables, canned fruit. Got a shelf life equal to the stuff they sell you. Well, it's better for you. It's not perfect, but it's better for you. Yeah. They're not equipped for fire. They don't understand it. Now, they understand guys are going to come up and down my street with guns, and I'll shoot them, and they're going to be afraid to come into my house. And they understand that, by the time people are on the curb outside your house, your best bet is shotguns. So they're going to have to shoot through a window or a door, which leaves them vulnerable. And will it deter the crowd? A normal situation, yes. With these people, no. They're going to shoot back and spray the house with bullets. They're smuggling drugs into America. They're smuggling weapons into America, all kinds of weapons. They're going to have the weapons. If you go to Google and you Google Muslim training camps in America, people have maps of them. They're all over the place. How long have they been around? At least 30 or 40 years. I think they go back to Clinton. Bill Clinton. And they teach shooting in there. How hard is it to get guns in America? All the preppers have them. It's not hard. They get them too. How hard is it to get ammo? Nothing. You think they don't have good military assault weapons with scopes and red dots, either optical or literal, and 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 rounds of ammo for it? They don't have bullet-resistant vests? They do. They got all kinds of stuff. They got money. They got communications. They got first aid kits. They got medical. They got MREs. They got knives. They got anything the survivalists got, they got, but they're enraged and insane. Will a gun help? It will. It could deter them. If it's not a highly organized group that comes to the house and you start shooting out of the house, they may just go away. If they're somewhat trained and dedicated, they won't go away. They'll seek cover and they'll start shooting into the house. What are you going to do then? Did you build yourself a little metal box with gun ports that you could set up in your house that's made out of 1/2-inch cold rolled steel, and you could get in there and the bullets will bounce off it? I never heard of anybody doing that. What if you have a trap door in the house and you got a dugout down there and it's concealed? It looks like regular tile and there's a carpet over it with a table on it. Is that going to work? I'd give it a 98% chance. And you could sustain the fire? Yeah, probably. Yeah. So what? How many people have that? All the Americans run around with is their guns, their survival food, their knives. A lot of them have shortwave radios. They got generators. They're ill prepared. And they don't understand. Now, China, a year or so ago, was suspected of having balloons come over America with lasers that were starting all kinds of fires in America. And they were saying the balloons were weather balloons, which is malarkey. So is it possible that other groups have these balloons in the hundreds and thousands? It is. But when they're calling for people to rise up, which was what Hamas did, they're calling for people to attack Americans. And that means children, women, adults, walking on the street, just strolling down the street, and run up on them and shoot them and stab them. That's the way they do it. They're not going to interview the victim like a thief to see how fearful they are, or if they're a cop or something like that. They'll get cops too. They'll attack cops, doesn't matter to them. And they'll just run on rampages, expecting to be martyred. And they will kill people. It happens in Israel. They will kill people. And it will create terror, and that's their goal. Another trick of theirs is to blow buses up. You can study this over history. They don't do it too much anymore. They used to. How does it work? It will work on a bus. It'll work on a subway, any type of public transportation, a ferry, any of these things. There's two types. One is the jihadist that expects to kill themselves, and the other one is more smart, better trained, that expects to blow the bus or the train car up and get away. Focus on the ones that want to get away. They'll have a backpack or attaché case or a satchel or something that has the bomb in it, okay? And they have a timer. And this is what the trick is. To get off the bus and leave the backpack or purse or whatever with the device in it under the seat, undetected, while it has a time delay fuse, which may be as little as 30 or 60 seconds. Just enough time. When this guy sees the bus coming up to the stop, he starts the fuse, leaves the package on the floor under the bus, or maybe there's a parcel or package rack up on top, leaves it there, just gets up and calmly walks off the bus and then briskly walks away. Then you have detonation. Another way they can do it is they have a device inside the backpack, let's call it a backpack, that is detonated by a cellular phone. So they don't have any problems. They just get off the bus. So if somebody says, hey, you left your package, take that package, hey, he's a terrorist or something like that, which would happen in Israel, but it wouldn't happen in America because the people are not trained for this. The civilians don't understand it yet. And the education is a brutally long, hard learning process. So then he just says, "Oh, I'm sorry, thanks for telling me." He goes back and he picks his backpack up. And he waits for the next bus and does it on the next bus or the next bus until he's successful. And when the bus drives away, maybe it's 60 yards away, he dials the correct phone number on the cell phone, and boom, you have an explosion in the bus. The roof and the walls and the windows of the bus normally blow out, but the blast pressure is intense. Usually just the people within several feet of the bomb will die. The other people will suffer injuries. They normally put nails, nuts, screws, ball bearings in there for a shrapnel effect. They're brutal. You could see 20, 30 people getting killed sometimes, depending how crowded the bus is. On a subway car, it would work more efficiently because they're sturdier than a bus. But on a subway car, you usually don't have an easy time hiding the package. Some people may see the person getting off without their backpack in Israel, and they'll get upset and they'll start screaming, bomb, bomb, and get off the bus or the train or throw the bomb away outside or something. But in America, they'll just keep their mouths shut and figure, "Oh, that idiot left his backpack. I'll steal it and get whatever's good in there. Maybe he's got a computer or a camera." See? That's American mentality. How would you do this if you wanted to get an airport? Bring a really big bomb in a suitcase, something like 50 pounds. Go in there and wheel around your suitcase inside the airport, which nobody's going to consider highly suspicious. And you don't check it, of course, although you could, but why check it? It's not going to do anything. And then just set your suitcase down there in a large crowd of people and walk away. Like, people may not pay attention for a few seconds, and then when you're away enough, you detonate it. And they'll go back through the video and they'll find out who did it, and they may have a picture of him, but he may have a hood on and sunglasses or whatever. And so what? So they know who did it. They don't know who he is. They've seen a picture of him. So what? They don't care. And then you could take out maybe 100 or 200 people that way. You don't have to do it there. You could do it like at a big bus terminal, big train terminal. Easy to show up with suitcases and get away with it. What about a mall? You take a baby stroller, you put a life-looking doll in there and you tuck it in real good and you get your explosives in there. And you take your stroller to the mall when you walk around. And then you park your stroller outside of one of the restaurants in the mall that looks like you went into the mall. And go out of the mall and then hit your cell phone detonator and blow the thing up. These people not only have weapons and explosives and bomb-making materials, they know how to assemble rockets. Cheap, junky, inaccurate rockets that are never going to go more than 8 miles, maybe 10 at the most. They're not guided, they're not accurate. They have a warhead usually of about 8 or 10 pounds, which is similar to an artillery shell. They'll blow a room out, but the shrapnel goes flying probably dangerously for even 50 feet. And they could build them easily out of regular household materials at Home Depot. They just take these things up onto the roof of the house and start launching them. They have delayed launching on these things. So they set the launcher up, they aim it, everything's ready to go. And they have a timer. It's fired electrically, so it's got batteries. It's got a timer. And they set it for 3 minutes or 5 minutes. You know, just a regular, you twist the dial and you hit tick, 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 tick. And one of those, right? And when it goes and hits the bell, bong, boom, it makes the circuit close, the signal, electrical signal goes, and then they get launched. So you're not going to catch them. They're not going to be at the launch GPS. And they launch missiles from inside a city to a big city from one point inside a city to another point inside a city, causing a lot of damage. See, the prepper survivalist his orientation is guns, survival food. Those are the things they live on. Guns are not enough. Now, I would say now some of the places to avoid starting right now are, I would say, synagogues and churches, because they target these things too. And I would stay away from large gatherings like for the holiday season. I would just mind my own business, you know. You might want to go shopping in the off hours if you can. It depends what kind of job you got, your work hours. When the supermarkets are emptiest, they're the safest. Get a lot of stuff whenever you can by home delivery. It could get to a point where you got to avoid restaurants, but that's probably not where they're going to start. But they do that in Israel. Let me look at the chat, and then we'll go through the Bible basis for why I'm telling you all this. All right. Thank you for praying for my wife. She is getting better. Thank you. They better watch out for whose houses they break into. Lots of people are prepared. Okay, with all the due respect to you, I want to teach you this. Please listen. These people go into their combat knowing they're going to die. They look forward to it. Will the preppers and survivalists kill them coming around in the neighborhood? Yes. But there's going to be so many. They're not going to kill them all. And they know how to shoot. They train. There's Muslim training camps in America. These are military-age males. These are people that have been trained that are coming into America. 70% of the illegals. They know how to fight. And they have weapons, and they know how to use them, and they know how to operate as a squad. Okay? Are some of them going to get killed? Absolutely. Absolutely. But the prepper, the survivalist, the militia is not understanding their use of fire. Not firing guns, F-I-R-E, like red fire engines fire, right? They don't get it. And that's going to be their downfall. It happened in Delaware last night. I'm ill prepared. I don't know what happened in Delaware. Yes, America's got more guns than people. I was a gun nut when I lived in America. I must have owned over 100 guns in my day. Okay? I know a lot about guns. It's going to be a deterrent and slow them down. They will burn the houses. They will burn the cars. That's what they did to us in Israel. We have bomb shelters, as I explained. They're fortified with big thick steel doors. They tolerate direct hits from missiles. They burn that. They're usually under the house, on the lowest level of the house, if not under. And they burned the houses, and the people died from heat and smoke. Okay? That's it. Look, if you and your friends have a house and you live together and you got, on every side of the house and on the roof, you got a 50 caliber squad machine gun, okay? And each of you have 2,000 rounds of ammo. Are you going to deter them? Yeah, but they're going to make you a project. And how are they going to finish you off? With fire. They'll start pouring Molotov cocktails on you. People don't understand what they're going to do. They're going to burn the houses, burn the buildings, burn the agricultural fields, burn the cars. That's what they do. That's their way of doing it. You're going to definitely get a lot of mileage out of your gun. If you're in an area, let's say you live in they're not going to go hit the low class areas, and they're not going to hit the middle class areas. They're going to hit the neighborhoods that have at least executive level houses, like the houses of 3,500 square feet and up, gated communities or whatever, right? That's what they want, because they want to get cash, they want to get jewelry. Some of the idiots may want pharmaceutical drugs, they want to get gourmet food, they want to get nice clothes, and they want to rape the rich women, and they'll come in. And when you have a house, and let's say you've got a wife who shoots and you shoot, and you got 2 teenage sons who shoot, and you start shooting at them, you think they're going to run away? I promise you they won't. I know these people. They will not run away. They will keep attacking. They'll seek cover, but not the way an American will. American is trained first, let's get behind something, let's get a barrier, and then fight. They'll do that, but not so. They're suicidal. And a lot of them take this drug they have before they go out, and it makes them impervious to pain, and they don't bleed as much, as far as I know, and it gives them a sense of euphoria. I saw a video of a guy who was in Tel Aviv a couple of years ago. He drove his car into an old Orthodox Jewish man and knocked him down with the car on the sidewalk. He jumped out of the car and came after the guy with an axe and was hitting the guy in the head with the axe. There were bystanders there that had pistols, and they were shooting him with their 9mm. He fell down. He took a few hits, I'd say 2 or 3 hits with the 9, and he got up. And he started hitting other people with the axe, and they kept shooting him. And I think by the time they got the 5 or 6 bullets in him, he went down. But he was going for at least 15, 20 seconds. That's drugs. The average person takes 3 rounds of 9mm, they're going to stop fighting. Okay? I mean, some nuts will keep going, but generally they'll stop fighting. Okay, so they're going to burn the houses. That's what they're going to do. And they'll burn the cars. If they can get in the house, they will. They'll be prepared for resistance from bullets. Okay, from you shooting at them. They'll be prepared. And they'll spray the houses with their AK-47s. And 99% of the houses in America, or 95 or whatever, are not going to tolerate sprays from AKs. The bullets are going to go flying through the house, and the survivalists and preppers in the house are probably going to get hit, all or some. And an AK-47 is a very lethal round. Very lethal round. It's a good round. And it's very dangerous. And it will go right through sheetrock. Probably go through 8 or 10, at least 10 pieces of sheetrock, if not 15. Go right through car doors. They're going to use Molotovs and these incendiary grenades they used on us. And they got them. They smuggled them in. And they just start flinging Molotovs at your house. They'll burn you out. When you come out, they'll kill you. If you don't come out, you'll burn. That's what they do. Listen to me, please. In America, everybody's over-obsessed with survival food and with the guns. It's not going to work. They fight our military. They throw IEDs at our armored vehicles. Okay? They run up on our tanks and try to hit us with incendiary devices and Molotovs on the tank. They come right up to the tank, a foot away. They're crazy. They're crazy. You got to understand this. In America fought the Muslims in the Philippines around 1900. And that's when, it could be before, it's in the late 1800s and 1890s, I think. And the American soldiers were using 38 special revolvers. And they were shooting these people because they too took drugs. And the 38s were going in and out of them, in the front, out the back, in the back, out the front. And they were still coming. How long could they last with a few bullet holes? Minutes. But they can kill you in seconds. And that's when America went to the 45 long Colt revolver. That's 265 grains at about 850 feet per second. And when that hit him, it was like a freight train, and that plowed him down. Drugs or no drug, they didn't get up. That's the Wyatt Earp era gun. Darn good round, though. Had some 45 long Colt revolvers. Darn good, darn good. Put somebody down. 44 Magnum, better. It's basically a similar 240 grains at 1,400 feet per second. So the 44 Magnum's even better. But they also, the American soldiers in the Philippines had bayonets fighting these Muslims that were trying to get rid of them. And they were bayoneting these guys because they didn't even have guns. And they were charging the American lines with sharpened machetes. A machete can kill you. The American soldiers were using bolt action then. So after they fired a round and the guy keeps running at you, you don't have time to work your bolt and take aim and fire. So they were bayoneting them. What did these Muslim warriors do? The guy would be impaled on the bayonet. They pulled the rifle into them deeper, got close enough to the soldier to whack him in the head with the machete and kill him. Drugs. This is the mentality of what you're up against. Americans don't understand it. I grew up in America. I'm an Israeli. They don't understand it. They don't. If they form an Operation Watch Committee, which is armed, and patrol their communities, the police are going to try to stop it. They're going to probably arrest them. You know how the police are. They're not going to let you do it. Channel's 10 years old. Someone says we'll live together. I believe you. I was a gun nut in America. I used to hang out in a gun range We all used to agree if anything happened, we'd meet at the gun range. You ask me anything about guns, I can probably answer it. I reloaded. I took professional training courses. I was in law enforcement. I've had all kinds of crazy guns and not so crazy guns. I've taught people how to shoot. I'm better with pistols than long guns, but I do okay with long guns. I understand the mentality. I knew these people. I was friends with these people. I was in their house. They were in my house. I know what you're talking about, but you don't understand. They're not like a Hell's Angel gangbanger or a drug cartel. Somebody. These people are headed for suicide. Suicide to them means they're going to heaven. Getting killed in combat for their religion means they're going right to heaven with 70 virgins and living in paradise for eternity, and they believe it. This is what you're up against. So let's say you gather together. We used to say we'd meet at the gun range. Let's say you gather together in a house and you got 8 or 10 guns in the house. You're not going to have 40 guns in the house. Maybe you could get up to 6 or 8. So they're coming through a neighborhood and you're going to blast them. Are you going to hit and kill them? You bet you will. But we're talking about hundreds of them coming. You're not going to have squad machine guns. That'll get them to run away. And what are they going to do when they run away? They're going to have a conference and figure out how to get rid of you. How are they going to get rid of you? They're going to burn you out. What did the American Indians do when they were outgunned and they hit outposts where there was a stagecoach station or something like that? And the guys would be inside the house, several of them with rifles. They had lever action, generally in single action pistols, right? And the Indians were using spears, tomahawks, knives, bows, and arrows. What did they do? They courageously would surround the fort on horseback, riding around. Sometimes they had guns and rifles, shooting at them, shooting arrows, and it wouldn't work. And what did the North American Indians do next? They took incendiary arrows. They put stuff on the tip of the arrow that would make fire. And they shot them on the roof of the house, and the walls of the house, through the windows of the house. And the place started to burn. And what happened when the place started to burn? They tried to put it out from inside, and that wouldn't work. So they had to go outside, and then they got picked off. You're going to experience the same thing with Molotov cocktails and incendiary devices. I have not heard of them using flamethrowers. I have never heard of that. It could be, but I don't think so. But they will burn you out. And you know as well as I do that preppers and survivalists and gun collectors are not prepared to get burned out. This is a big deal. You need to have houses like in Israel with concrete block, concrete roofs with hard tile and tile floors, and we don't have carpets. We're very hard to burn out, but they burned us out anyway on October 7th. The furnishings in the house, stuff like that. American houses burn easy. The walls are not thick. We got concrete block. That's going to bounce rifle bullets off. They don't just pass through concrete block without deforming and ricocheting and stuff like that. Oh, if you had a 50 cal with armor piercing, sure. But they don't use those. All they ever use are handguns, which are typically 9mm pieces of crap, and I mean pieces of crap. And they use some full auto subguns that are made in basements with 9mm that are very deadly, but they're pieces of crap. And they use the weapon of the terrorists, the AK-47, which, as you know, is a very dangerous, potent weapon out to about 200 yards. Beyond that, it's a piece of crap. But it is very dangerous. And it's reliable. It's not highly accurate. They don't have cold hammer forged barrels. They probably are not going to have good optical sights. They're probably not. They're probably not going to have night optics. And you guys will, and I know that. And you will kill them. But there's too many of them. That's the problem. They go in massive amounts because they know they're going to get killed. And they're going to burn you out because that's your vulnerability. Think about it. You guys know prepping and survival and guns and that type of thing. You're just not prepared for fire. That's what they used on us 72 days ago. It was Hamas. And Hamas is the one threatening you in America. From inside America. And why isn't Biden stopping them? Why is Biden keeping your borders open? FBI is saying the terrorist threats like it never was before. It's too late now. The cow's out of the barn. But he still won't shut it. He still won't shut it. Okay? You've had millions of these people come in the last 2.5 years. Do you think they're not Chinese operatives? They're not Russian? They're not North Korea? They're not Iranian? They're not Hezbollah? They're not Hamas? Let me tell you in terms that I think you could understand before I get into the Bible. Biden is selling out America. You tell me why he's letting the door open for these illegals to come in and transporting them all around America. Why the Border Patrol welded the gates open. Why he won't stop it. Everybody in America, Fox News, FBI, Homeland Security, are saying there's 70% military-age males, and you can look at the videos. I'll explain it to you biblically very quickly, but he's doing it. Okay, now I'll give you the Bible explanations. Believe me, I will. Netanyahu, on the 20th of September, went to see Biden. Biden didn't want to see Netanyahu. Couldn't stand him. Let our president come here. Biden's the prime minister. The president's like Secretary of State. Not that big a deal. Big, but not that big. And he let the Minister of Defense come here, but he wouldn't see Netanyahu. All of a sudden, he says Netanyahu's welcome to come. A few days later, on the 20th, Netanyahu's there. A little over 2 weeks later, October 7th happened. What our Gaza border usually looks like is this. We have sensors that detect people walking when they come over the fence. We have outposts that are like Fort Apache towers made out of wood, they're up 30 feet or so, and people there with binoculars. They have night optics, they have assault rifles, they have communications, and they're watching for infiltrations. And we have cameras, infrared, night cameras, day cameras, cameras. Not only do we have that, we have Bedouins that back Israel. They're some subsect of Islam, but they're loyal to the country they live in, like the Druze. And they join the military, and they work as trackers. I'm talking Apache Navajo-style trappers. They can look at the footprints, smell it, taste it, eyeball it, and track. You ain't getting away from these guys. You just like the Apaches and Navajos and the Seminoles and all that in the old days, you ain't getting away from these guys. You go out in the desert with them at night, they'll steal the skin off your body. They'll take the paint job off your car. You can't get away from these guys. I was sitting outside in the morning with my dogs about 5:30. It was a beautiful day, and I was getting ready for my daily live stream. And I'm reading the news, and all of a sudden the red alerts start going off on my phone. Whenever there's a penetration in airspace, missile, rocket, aircraft, drone, you name it, we get red alerts by the community. In the communities, they blow an on-the-ground siren, like, loud, right? That means you're in trouble. But I have my phone programmed for the entire country of Israel, so whenever there's an attack anywhere, it goes off. So I like to know what's going on because I'm reporting on the news, right? Okay. By the way, I'm a New Testament believer who loves cowboy hats. I don't wear any yarmulke or a kippah. I'm not Orthodox. This is a Rand hat before Rand sold it to the new people. If you know what Rand hats are, you know what this is. It's 100% beaver. This is all right. So I hear these red alerts going off non-stop. The phone can't keep up with them. Now, I've been through several wars. I've seen this before. What normally happens is give it 15 to 30 minutes and our aircraft are bombing them. We have 50 F-35s. Now, we don't have just regular F-35s. We retrofit them. And you better believe we retrofit them better. And we have all our pilots in combat have the 360-degree helmet. So when they're flying, they, in a virtual hologram fashion, see everything, not just in front of them, 360 degrees. These are very expensive. America buys these from us. And we got all kinds of F-16s and F-15s that have been retrofitted and modernized, okay? We've got over 300 war jets, okay? And there's no jets. I'm sitting there listening. The rockets are coming, and they're coming, and they're coming, and they're coming, and there's no jets. It took between 3 and 4 hours for them to counterattack. That's not normal. Netanyahu all of a sudden went to see Biden on September 20th. Google it. October 7th, we get this attack. Many countries told us they warned us of this attack. Do you know that tunnel network in Hamas has is 300 miles? Yep. Thank God we've got the missiles coming in from Gaza reduced now, probably by 75%. And it may be higher, it may be 80, 90%. And eventually it'll be 100%. It'll just be some days away. They will build missiles in America and launch them on America. These are homemade missiles. They will do it. They will be crappy missiles. They will go no more than 10 miles. They will generally have maybe an 8 to 12 pound warhead, and that's enough to blow the room of a house out. A nice 15 by 18 room will have nothing left in one piece if it hits that room. Generally, they hit the roof of structures. If you're in an apartment building that's 25 stories and you're on the 17th floor, unless the missile trajectory is unusual and comes down on the side of the building, you're probably not going to get hit. If it hits the 3 or 4 floors above you, you're going to get the scare of your life, but you're going to be fine. If it hits the floor above you, I don't know how fine you'll be. If it hits 2 floors, probably nothing. Okay? Often they hit the roof, but sometimes they come in the side. They're not aimable. They're not guided. They go up and they come down. And they're going to launch them from inside cities into cities. And I told you, these son of a guns take balloons, helium balloons, and they put incendiary devices in the basket under the balloon, which is like this. All they need is, 8 ounces, 12 ounces of some combustible liquid or pasty thing. They light a fuse that takes a few minutes. They look at the wind, they let it go, it floats, and it eventually comes down. And it's a firebomb. When the fuse burns out, the fire starts, destroys the balloons, right? The thing comes down like a rock, but it's on flame. It starts fires. If it hits the roof of your house, is it going to burn your house down? Probably not. It could, but I don't think so. If it hits a commercial structure with a flat roof, not an A-frame, a flat roof with tar and stuff, what's going to happen? You know, 5-alarm fire or something like that, 3-alarm. It's going to burn. If it lands on a car, the car normally will burn. It lands on a truck, the truck will burn. Lands in a park, what's it going to do? Burn a couple of trees, burn the grass, nothing. Lands in a parking lot, what happens? If there's cars, it can burn the cars if it's right close to the car. If not, it'll burn out. What if it hits an agricultural field? They destroyed many thousands of acres of our agricultural fields. If it's rainy season, winter, snow, cold, wet, not going to be that bad at all. It'd be pretty ineffectual. If it's dry season, burn your crops. What about your forests? Burn your forests. This time of year in America, you got a lot of rain and snow and hail and sleet and all that stuff. So it's a lot harder than, dry season. They use fire. They have an unlimited supply. It's cheap. You can learn how to do it in an hour or 2 or 3 hours. And if you're taking this lightly, you're deceiving yourself. You don't understand your enemy. You're thinking about this as if Russian soldiers came in or German soldiers in World War II that go back home. They had wives and children. They observed, various holidays. They went to churches. This is not what you're dealing with. You don't understand what you're dealing with. If their daughters do something bad, they kill their own daughters for honor. I'm telling you, Hamas promised it. They're going to fulfill it, and they're not going to wait long. It's not going to be months. It may be a couple of weeks. They're going to start doing it. You've seen the protests. That's how they're recruiting. Then they're bringing their recruits to the mosques, and they're trying to brainwash them into Islam, a different sect of Islam, one that wants jihadists. And it's not just Hamas, it's Hezbollah, it's Al-Qaeda, it's ISIS, Al-Fatah, and others. And they got trainers to train them and motivate them, and they got tons of money. They got more money than you know what to do with. We found one suitcase in the tunnels in Hamas, in the tunnels, with $5 million American cash in. They've estimated building that tunnel network cost Hamas $2.5 billion. You don't understand how much money these crazy fanatics get. They're not going for the Jews, they're going for America. Any infidel, non-Muslim, they're going to go for. And they rape, they torture, they cut heads off with dull knives. All of this. And they're there. They're in America. Even your FBI is telling you that. And now Hamas is asking them to start in, attack America. Now, are there going to be protests that turn violent and stuff like that? Yes. How do you stay away from that? If you happen to be in a city working and you see that, get the heck out of there. Go home. Don't go back to work. They love raping. And they gang rape until the person dies. I don't know if I could say this here. I'll try to do it very coyly. They practice necrophilia with their raping. I'm not going to explain any further. You know what I said or you don't know what I said. Don't understand. They rape animals. There's videos on YouTube with these people. You don't understand, I'm telling you. I've lived here many years. I understand what they are. Unfortunately, you'll soon learn what they are. And it's so ugly. You don't know. Are they all that way? No. They're not all that way. The Sunnis are not that way. They don't get into that kind of stuff. It's the other sects that do. They're not all that way. But the ones that are unbelievable, and there's tons of them. They think they're doing God a favor by killing you. And the raping is humbling you. And of course, the plundering, looting, and pillaging is just greed. So yeah, there'll be protests. If you see protests in the street, get at least 2 blocks away from where they are and then keep going. Don't hang around to watch. Let the cops worry about it. Are they going to start killing cops? You bet, wholesale. What are their goals with doing that? Is to get the cops to quit or stay home and hide. That's their goal. Will they accomplish it? Yeah. Do they do that with they stab and shoot our police all the time? We're fighting for our homeland. We're fighting for our existence. You're not, but you are. You don't know it yet. You will be, but you don't know it yet. But that's how bad it is. And there's millions of women there. And they didn't come so they can go get on welfare and go watch Netflix and air conditioning and have a supersized me with a big jumbo bag of Doritos and a Big Mac. No. They came here to kill you. That's what they came for. I don't know how to not... I don't know any other way to tell it to you. Hang on a minute. Somebody says, but they're also in the police departments. They are. They're also in the military. Biden doesn't know his name. Well, I'll say he doesn't know how to get off a stage. Trump was doing a talk the other day, and he said, I was mimicking Biden, and he's on the stage there on a podium, and he's talking, a lectern podium, whatever. And he's saying, well, the exits, either they're here or they're here. I see the stairs all over the place. And then he mimics Biden walking around in circles. And someone has to come out and get him off the stage. And Biden won't enter into debates with Trump. How could Biden win a debate with Trump? Trump is sharp and witty. Biden is not. Trump would pose questions Biden couldn't answer. He'd have to have a teleprompter, and Trump would sit there and say, I shut my teleprompter off. He don't need a teleprompter. He'd say, why doesn't Biden shut his? He couldn't survive a debate with Trump. He couldn't even come close. But Congress said, we're not approving your military aid for Ukraine and Israel until you shut the border. And he did not shut the border, and they still have not approved the aid to Ukraine. And then the chairman of the Joint Chiefs said if they don't give aid to Ukraine, it might mean open war with Russia next. That means they're going to just declare war on Russia. What is Biden doing? I'll tell you what Biden's doing, and then I'll give you the scriptures. Biden is sinking the ship being America. He's finished with it. He's destroying America on purpose. You tell me why else he's leaving the border open. These are good workers, but there's 70% military age males that don't really go to work, and the rest are women and children and old people that don't make good workers. That's not it. No, that's not it. They don't have any cultural similarities with the Americans. They don't have the English language. They come from all different countries. What America's up to in the Middle East is to entrench. There's a snare being worked against America, and I'm going to have to develop this with you in the Bible. Now we're switching to Bible prophecy. Okay? So I'm going to take a fast 1-minute break, and what's going to come next is the Bible prophecies in Jeremiah 50 and 51, which mention the daughter of Babylon, which is America. And I'll briefly explain to you why it is America, and we'll go through it. And I'll be right back. And that gives you guys an excuse that don't want to hear from God and the Word of God and know what really is going to happen, and you just want intel to take off. But if that's the case, please bear in mind, how are you going to protect yourself from fire? Because that's what you're going to get. All right. Jeremiah 50 and 51 and Isaiah 47 are the dominant scriptures that talk about the destruction of the daughter of Babylon, which is America. Okay? Now, it says in Jeremiah 50:51 that she's on many waters. 8,000 rivers in America, about that many lakes, including the Great Lakes, which are pretty much like seas or oceans. And you have the Pacific, the Atlantic, and the Gulf of Mexico. Okay? The other candidates that people propose are Rome, where the Vatican is, many waters. Well, I'll be the first to admit they probably have a few hundred bottles of holy water there. Water fountains, toilets, urinals, sinks, water fountains. They don't have the water. Mecca and Medina. They're deserts, no water. So those are all out. It says many different people are mingled in America in Jeremiah 50:51. I can't read those chapters, we don't have enough time. America is the great melting pot. It says the hammer of the whole earth. You think that's not America? It is. It's not China, it's not Russia, it's America. It says the great voice. Now, when the Pope tells another country, who listens to the Pope? The Catholics. How many Catholic countries there are in the world? There's a bunch in South America and Central America and so forth, but not that many. And they don't listen to the Pope anyway. They listen, but they don't obey him. Who listens to Islam? Just the other, they're all in disagreement. They all dispute who they, the Sunni, Shiite, and subsects, and they don't get along with each other. They fight a lot. Who listens to the communists? Nobody, except the other, a few communist countries. The great voice is America. They're the ones that, who listens to them? The Hindu countries do. The Buddhist countries do. The communist countries do. The Islam countries do. The Jewish state is basically running, Biden tries to run it. And even the Catholic countries listen to America. The nations come to gather together. Where's that? At the UN. Where else? In Washington, D.C. They all have their embassies there. Okay? Now, for you to understand why Biden is doing this, yes, it's getting crazy posts. Yes, we know it's coming soon to America. I say you got maybe 2 or 3 weeks at most. You might have less. You got to understand these terrorists. Iran told America, I don't know, a month, 6 weeks ago, something like that they're going to expand the Middle East conflict. And, they hit their bases in Iraq and Syria as of about 3 days ago, 87 times. And they're still doing it. Yemen closed that little pincher point down by the bottom of the Red Sea, by, I think they call it the Arabian Sea, and they attacked 17 ships, said they're not going to stop. They're going to keep going. America repositioned the Dwight D. Eisenhower aircraft carrier group down there. where it's within striking range of Yemen. And they're talking about raising a coalition of several countries to patrol the Red Sea and stop it. It will not stop it. I live here. I follow this stuff. Why? Yemen has tunnels. Yemen has underground bunkers. That defeats planes. We just found a huge underground tunnel that you could drive an SUV through going from Gaza down by Egypt. I think it was going into Egypt. We just got it 2 days ago. 150 feet down. What the heck are you going to drop that's going to blow a reinforced concrete tunnel with steel girders inside it, curved like this, holding it up like that, right? What the heck are you going to do 150 feet down? You're going to have to start dropping bombs the size of SUVs. We dropped 2,000-pound bombs numerous times on the tunnels in Gaza, which are down around 100 feet at best. And occasionally it collapsed a piece of the tunnel, maybe 100 or 200 feet. You know, don't kid yourself. Your enemy, know your enemy. Your enemy is good. Americans learned a bad lesson in Vietnam from the Viet Cong. And they tried to teach the soldiers that this enemy, Charlie, as they called him, was good. And he was, in his own way. He couldn't fly a plane, he couldn't fly a helicopter, he couldn't operate a destroyer, but he knew guerrilla combat tactics, and that's your enemy, Hezbollah, Hamas, etc. They know that, and they know how to do it in the cities and in the country and everything else. They're good. They're good. And they're dangerous. And they don't care about dying. Very, very dangerous enemy. Very dangerous. And they got the same kind of guns you got. Okay? And they're lawless. And they're immoral. Look what they did on October 7th. Russian soldiers aren't going to cut fetuses out of women and tie women and children together with wire and ignite them alive. Okay? A British soldier wouldn't, a French soldier, a German soldier, a Spanish soldier, a Brazilian soldier. They wouldn't do it. Would a North Korean do it? Probably. Chinese? Maybe. But the jihadist, insane terrorist organizations promote this kind of behavior because it instills terror. Okay? Now, for some of you that knew, I'm going to hit you with a couple of shocking things on proving America's the daughter of Babylon real quick, okay? Some of you that have been to the movies have seen this. Columbia Motion Pictures, right? It's a flat-chested woman. Now, I don't want to get into, transgenderism. It's a flat-chested woman holding the light, come to the light, on a pedestal, dressed in some sort of white robe-looking thing. Right? What do we have here? We have a flat-chested woman wearing some kind of white robe, holding the torch, the light, come to the light, on a pedestal. The pedestal has pillars, which are the same things you had in Roman and Greek temples. Pillars. Roman and Greek gods. Pillars. You see it? Okay? Let me put it together, don't worry. This is what Greek temples look like. Notice the Tiffium, the triangle at the top with images in it, who the heck knows what they are, and the pillars. That's your Greek temples. With a statue of some woman up at the top too. Now let's look at Roman temples. Not Vatican Roman temples, we're talking, going back to Rome temples. Here's the ruins of one. The Tiffium triangular thing on the top, but the statues look like they're gone. And the pillars. So your Greek and Roman temples are really about the same, aren't they? Yeah, I think so, aren't they? What's this Greek and Roman temple? You know what it's called? It's called the United States Supreme Court. It's a freaking temple to mythological gods. Look at it. The Tiffium with the graven image statues and the pillars on the steps. That's the Supreme Court. I don't have time to go through all this, but I'm going to give you another one. That's a temple to a mythological god. In Jeremiah 50:51, talking of America, it says, mad upon her idols. You know what this building is? It's number 11 Wall Street. I worked there as a summer job when I was in college on the Florida Exchange. There's a page. It's got the pillars, the Tiffium, the graven images. It's a Greek, Roman, pagan temple. That's the seat of the finances, the New York Stock Exchange. These are Roman, Greek type temples to worship false gods. Now, we'll go back to Columbia, the Statue of Liberty. Where else do we see this schmucky broad? I don't like it. It's a rotten graven image. Where do we see it? I'll show you. She's right here on the roof of the Capitol building, right up on the top. Same woman, I'm sure. These are graven images. Prohibited in the Ten Commandments and the Bible and the Moses Law. Who's Columbia? It's a woman, right? Right. Or somebody that looks like a woman, a man dressed as a woman, I don't know. What is the capital of the United States? District of Columbia. D.C. Is the Washington District of Columbia in any of the 50 states? No. It is run by the Fed directly. And does it run the rest of the country, Washington, D.C.? Absolutely. All the seat of the federal government is there. Where do the nations of the world come? They put their embassies in Washington, D.C. The consulates go in New York and L.A. and all that. The embassy, the higher one, is put in Washington, D.C., District of Columbia. So who is Columbia? Columbia is the Statue of Liberty, the woman on the roof of the Capitol, probably the same, and the Columbia Motion Pictures icon. It's all the same one, and that explains to you who the District of Columbia is, the capital of the United States. Now, we'll go to Revelation 17. I'm using King James. And here we read in verse 1, and there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto you the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. Waters means peoples. With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. The fornication here, they're speaking about a spiritual fornication, worshiping false gods, which the churches do. What is Yeshua was I can't spend a lot of time on this. Yeshua was the Lamb of God. Okay, he would be the firstborn lamb, and he would have come out that year before all the other lambs. The lamb's birth in late February, early March, when the year turns in Israel. Okay? He was not born on December 25th. What is Christmas? They reverse the words, Mass for Christ. What does that mean? It's a Catholic term, which means that every time the priest holds Mass, he's calling Christ down from heaven and re-crucifying him for the sins of the people. Look it up. So when you celebrate Christmas, you're pulling, spiritually, you're pulling Yeshua down. You're not really, but they think they are. Pulling Yeshua down from heaven and re-crucifying him hundreds of times a day or thousands of times for the sins of the people. And that's what Christmas is. Yet people go and observe it. You think it escapes God? So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness. What happened to the Israelites when they played games with God? And I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast full of names of blasphemy and having 7 heads and 10 horns. And this woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, this is riches, having a golden cup in her hand of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. Now, America promotes many policies from the White House that are anti-biblical. You know what they are. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Yeshua. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads, the 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest was, and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition, and they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, those whose names were not written in the book of life. Now, the beast was, then he got sent to the pit, and then he emerges. He comes out of the pit in Revelation 13. John is standing on the sand of the sea. The beast comes up from the water because the pit is probably under the ocean. Comes out, okay? And what do we see then? We see Satan gives the beast his seat and his authority and power. Great. Now, the churches are teaching you this happens in Jerusalem in the next temple, but that's not what your Bible teaches you. In Revelation 2, speaking of the church in Pergamos in verse 12 and 13, your own Bible tells you that Satan's seat is in Pergamos, and that's where he dwells. So in Revelation 2, you are told Satan's already on earth in Pergamos. So many of your churches are teaching you that Satan wasn't cast down from heaven yet. Why would they say a thing like that? And he's in Pergamos. That's where he dwells. That's a city in Cyprus, North Cyprus, controlled and run by Turkey, who was the old seat of the Ottoman Empire. And it's not in Israel. And there never was a Pergamos in Israel, never will be. Some translations mess it up to say Pergamum, which is in Turkey. For the purposes of what I'm trying to accomplish here, it doesn't make a lot of difference. There never was a Pergamum in Israel, and there never will be. But the beast temple is not in Jerusalem. Revelation 11, where the two witnesses are crucified, or not crucified, killed, and lay in the street, that's in Pergamos. Spiritually, it's called Sodom in Egypt. God doesn't refer to Israel that way. And it says where Yeshua was crucified, but Yeshua was crucified outside the gates, not in Jerusalem. There you have it. You'll receive it or you won't. Your Bible says Satan gives the beast Satan gives the beast his seat and his power and authority, and he dwells in Pergamos, and that's where his seat is. So that's where the beast is, that's where the false prophet is, that's where the talking statue is, and that's where they're taking the mark of the beast, and all that will be occurring. You can reject knowledge, and Yeshua rejects you. It's right in your Bible. What's the problem? You're afraid to turn against the church? You'd rather have your friends in the church and have your family fellowship with you in the church and then go to the lake of fire and not go to heaven for eternity? Is that your game? Pretty dumb game. Church is teaching you to hate Israel. Oh yeah. We stand by Israel. What the heck do they ever do for Israel? You know what they do for Israel? They pray. What did the Bible tell you? If you see some poor person, you help them. You don't pray for them. That doesn't work. That's saying, God, you help them. I don't want to bother. I'm too covetous. I hope I got your attention. Now I'm in Revelation 17. Oh, it's after, from the book of life, it says, from the foundation of the world, where they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. And here, when the beast comes out of the pit, there's a tremendous amount of smoke that blocks the sun. And then you see the locusts come out with stingers like scorpions and snakes, tormenting people. That hasn't happened yet. But the beast is in the wilderness with the woman, and I'll show you who the woman is in a minute, and you'll get the idea. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains. Those are the 7 continents. on which the woman sitteth. So she's in charge of the whole world. And that was the United States in its heyday, not today. And there are 7 kings, 5 have fallen and 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. I'm not going to speculate on that because we don't really know yet what country that is. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7 and goeth into perdition. That's when Yeshua returns. The beast and the false prophet are thrown alive into the lake of fire. Verse 12. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. I believe this is BRICS. BRICS. They're, I think, at about 11 members now, but you'll see India draw out. But leave. BRICS is being converted into like a NATO arm also. So to be in BRICS, you're also going to have to be in like their NATO. And India's not going to do that. India just invested tremendous fortunes in Israel companies, buying up Israel companies. India's just not going to do it. I'm telling you, it's going to drop out. These have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. For he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. And Satan is the Lord of schmucks. You gotta be a jerk to follow him. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth, are peoples. See, water is people. And multitudes, and nations, and tongues. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. Remember this. This is going to open up what's going on in America. These shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. Was I talking to you about fire a lot today? And after I saw what Hamas did in Israel on October 7th, you better believe eat her flesh is literal. 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 For God hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree, and to give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is the great city, which reigneth over the kings of the earth. The great city. That's Washington, D.C. That's the whore. That's Columbia, the female whore. Columbia. District of Columbia. The beast had the whore riding on her. America's hundreds of years old. The beast is not out of the pit, but still being controlled by the whore. But he's finished with the whore. The 10 horns come out from his head. 10 nations that are going to attack the whore and destroy her and eat her flesh and burn her with fire. That is BRICS. It's just emerging. We'll go into chapter 18 and you'll see the fire. And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory, and he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Did I not show you the Roman temples? They're mad upon their images. I showed you them. the Supreme Court. I could show you many others. The New York Stock Exchange, come on. The Statue of Liberty's got the pillars. It's a temple too. To Columbia, a false god, a mythological creature or something. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings and the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. America's a very, very, very rich country, and large. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, "Come out of her, my people." Now, who are the people? That means the Israelites, and it means the true believers in Yeshua HaMashiach that are not native-born Israelites, the true believers. You're all going to come out on the second Exodus. You're going to stop in the wilderness and then come to Israel. That's found in Ezekiel chapter 20, starting at verse 33 to the end of the chapter. I don't have enough time to read all these things. It would be here till my nighttime. Come out of her, my people, that you do be not partakers of her sins, and that you receive not of her plagues. Who do we know that's coming to town that puts any plague they want on the people? The two witnesses. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. They just did a dirty deal with Biden on this October 7th thing so they could justify attacking Iran and getting rid of Iran. There's not that many warships here as there were, say, a month ago, but there's still 31, I think, or some figure like that. Maybe American ships are 19, and there's about 12 from other countries here. And more are coming in because of the Houthis. Biden will attack the Houthis. He'll have to do a ground invasion to stop the missiles. 10% basically of world commerce is, of oil, 10% of the oil goes through the Suez Canal, the Red Sea. So they're going to do something about it, okay? And it's affecting the whole world. So America, the great voice, to hammer the whole earth, is going to go hammer the Houthis. But they're going to fail very badly because they're in tunnels and underground bunkers. And America's not going to be able to bomb them to stop. America's going to, that's the red alerts. America's going to have to go in on the ground. Then they'll probably go in through Saudi Arabia and set a beachhead up and go in. And that's going to embed more troops in America. Okay, they got troops all over the place now. 13,500 in Kuwait. Do you give a hoot about Kuwait? Do you care if Iran took Kuwait over? Why should 13,500 soldiers be in a rotten, stinking country like this? Like that. They hate Israel. They're not a democracy. They're a dictatorship. They don't distribute the wealth to the people. They stand for everything America says they stand against. As does Jordan, as does Saudi Arabia, as does Oman, as does the UAE, as does Qatar, as does Bahrain. Yet, America still stands with them and has troops in all these countries now to protect them from Iran. It's probably 30,000 troops distributed in these countries, which all these countries, by the way, are part of Greater Israel that God made a covenant in Genesis 15 to give us, from the Euphrates to the Nile and the Mediterranean to the Persian Gulf. It's about 100 times bigger than the existing Israel. Yeah, and they're helping them. Why? They don't want to see prophecy be fulfilled. America's going to stab us in the back. They're going to get us entrenched, probably with Netanyahu's knowledge, in Lebanon, and probably to a limited extent with the Houthis, and to a limited extent in Syria, or maybe not such a limited extent. And then they're going to cut the weapons supply off, and we have multiple fronts operating, leave us in the lurch. And that'll take you to Zechariah 12, when God starts to fight for Israel. God will destroy this democracy first, and he's in the process of doing it. They're divided. Read Ezekiel 34, and read Zechariah chapter 13, verses 8 and 9. 2/3 of Israel will get cut off, dead, and the 1/3 will be raised up righteous. Never happened yet. It's going to happen in the next few weeks or so. Maybe a couple of months or a few months. I don't know. May take several months. And then the two witnesses who are judges, prophets and judges, will run Israel, as it says in Isaiah 1. I will run Israel. He says he's going to run Israel like he did at the first with Moses and Aaron, who were prophets and judges, and the 70 councils. And that's the two witnesses. And that's what you see in Zechariah 12. And then you see them burning up the enemies on the right hand and the left when they surround Jerusalem and Judah to lay siege to it. And that's the next war. And that's Jacob's trouble in Jeremiah 30. And I've given you a lot of information very fast. In Jeremiah 30, verse 11, it says that God will destroy all the nations that he dispersed the Israelites into. This is over 100 nations. It's in Jeremiah 30, chapter 11, unfulfilled, tied to the birth pangs and the birth of the nation in a day, which was not the UN. They get born again like people get born again, and that happens in Zechariah 12, verse 10. When they look upon Yeshua, the one whom they have pierced. It's in Zechariah 12:10. Then they mourn for him. That wasn't fulfilled when Yeshua got crucified. They didn't mourn for him. Come on. Reward her even as she is rewarded, and double to her, this is a miracle, according to her works, in the cup which she hath filled. To her double. How much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her, for she saith in her heart, I sit a queen and am no widow. Notice it's always this female character, Columbia, and shall see no sorrow. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day. It's going to happen in one day. But in Jeremiah 50 and 51, it says, those of you that survived the sword, let Zion come to mind. That's the second Exodus. The surviving the sword speaks of what Jeremiah 50:51 says, ruler fighting ruler. A ruler has to be somebody in authority, not an ad hoc group of Ku Klux Klanners or something like that. These are the states that will be succeeding from America, or the counties or the cities succeeding. And Biden won't like that at all, and he'll try to stop that. They're going to succeed when the terrorist attacks start. They're going to say, we don't want to be part of America. We want to get out from under this fight. The terrorists that attack America aren't going to pay attention to that. It says also they tried to heal her, but she would not heal. They're trying to fix America and straighten it out, but they can't, and then they flee. Those of you that survived the sword, let Zion come to mind, is the ruler fighting ruler. And you're going to have all this terrorism in America while it's going on, because they're attacking America from within to weaken it. And God is against America. And when they weaken it, you're going to see an attack from many nations. And everybody left in America is dead. The people are even afraid to fight. And then they burn it. And we'll see it here. Revelation 18:8. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire. For strong is the Lord God who judgeth her. The invading countries are going to set fires in and around the cities. In Jeremiah 50:51 it says that. And that's going to burn up. And of course, there'll be some drought, and the burning will, of course, take care of the food and bring famine. And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her when they see the smoke of her burning. Merchants of the earth. These are the people that sell $1,200 cashmere sweaters to the people and sell $1,900 shoes to them. Okay? and send them little tins of caviar that cost $4,000. They're these kind of people that sell them Swiss watches for 50, 100, 200, $300,000. That sell them Ferraris for $400,000 and Rolls Royces for $400,000. These people, standing afar off for fear of her torment, saying, "Alas, alas, that great city, Babel, that mighty city." It means Babylon, and the word is Babel actually in Hebrew, and it means confusion. "That mighty city, for in 1 hour thy judgment is come." The attack is going to happen very fast. It's not going to come from Hamas inside. It's going to be an invasion. They come in through the north, which is Canada. I expect China, North Korea, Russia will come in the Bering Straits, which could be frozen solid at times, and they could drive across, come into Alaska, drop down through Canada and there. It says also in Jeremiah 50:51, her walls, her great walls will come down. The only walls America has are with Mexico. And Mexico's the one feeding all these terrorists in. They're bringing them into America in exchange for weapons from these terrorist groups. The terrorists, the cartels run Mexico. And they'll push the walls over. They'll just hit it with trucks, garbage trucks, SUVs, whatever. And they'll start looting and pillaging right over the border. That's what it says, Jeremiah 50:51. They're going to knock the walls down. And they'll be pretty ugly. Not as bad as Hamas and Hezbollah, but ugly. Verse 11 in Revelation 18. "And the merchants of the earth shall wail and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise anymore." How many people are going to buy $300,000 wristwatches and $500,000 cars and stuff like that? "The merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones, pearl and of pearls and fine linen." They buy this, special cotton from Egypt. They'll spend hundreds of dollars on their sheets and stuff. "And scarlet and all fine wood and all manner of vessels." Vessels. Those are the vessels of ivory. What does the word vessels actually mean? Oh, anything. It doesn't mean a boat. Okay, ivory. "And manner vessels of most precious wood, and of brass, and of iron, and of marble." This can mean anything made out of these materials, decorations, and even things that you would use. "And cinnamon, and odors, and ointments, and frankincense, and wine." These people have no problem drinking $1,000 bottles of wine with lunch. "And oil, and fine flour, and wheat, and beasts, and sheep, and horses." They buy racehorses for millions of dollars. "And chariots, and slaves, and souls of men," slaves, Epstein. "And the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee, and all things which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more at all. The merchants of these things which were made rich by her all stand afar off, for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing." They've been put out of business. "And saying, Alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls." This is all spiritual talk, allegory. "For in 1 hour," there you go again, 1 hour, so great riches is brought to north, and every shipmate, and all the company in ships and sailors, and as many as trade by sea stood afar off. The Potomac River feeds into the Atlantic River, and the Potomac goes all through Washington, D.C., I believe. "And cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What city is like unto this great city? And they cast dust on their heads, and cried weeping, wailing, saying, Alas, alas, that great city, wherein were made rich wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea, by reason of her costliness. For in 1 hour is she made desolate. It's going to happen very fast. Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and you holy apostles and prophets, for God hath avenged you on her. So a lot of people are not going to rejoice along with heaven because they're not supposed to go to heaven. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, thus with violence, didn't say it's going under the ocean, with violence, it'll be covered by waves, but it says with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down and shall be found no more at all. Now, the waves will wash over America and then it doesn't sink, it stays above the water. And the voice of harpers and musicians and pipers and trumpeters shall be heard no more at all in thee, and no craftsman whatsoever craft shall be found any more in thee, and the sound of a millstone shall be heard no more at all in thee. And the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. That's America. And in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints, and of all that was slain upon the earth. Okay. Now let me make the fire point a little bit clearer to you. I can do that in Jeremiah 15:51. I'm looking up the verses for you. Jeremiah 50, verse 32. And the most proud shall stumble and fall, and none shall raise him up, and I will kindle a fire in his cities, and it shall devour all around about him. There's more. Jeremiah 51:32. And that the passages are stopped, and the reeds they have burned with fire, and the men of war are affrighted. For thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, and that's the one thereafter. The daughter of Babel is like unto a threshing floor. It is time to thresh her yet a little while, and the time of her harvest shall come. And that's your Matthew 13 harvest, the tares and the wheat. And that'll be coming very quickly. Jeremiah 51:58. Thus saith Jehovah of hosts, the broad walls of Babel shall be utterly broken. Now, the broad could mean the long walls. You're thinking thick. Those are the walls between Mexico and America. They'll be utterly broken. And you can imagine when the cartel people and the other Mexican people surge in, what it will be like. And her high gates shall be burned with fire. There's the fire again. And the people shall labor in vain, and the folk in the fire. There's the fire again, and they shall be weary. Are you weary in America? You're weary. And it's just kind of firing up right now. I don't know if they still have slaves in Saudi Arabia officially, but they used to have them, and I have a low respect for the people of Saudi Arabia. They're horrible. Edom, which is going to be destroyed, is actually in Saudi Arabia. Somebody deleted a lot of my chat, not any of you people, but somebody did. Isn't that nice? It can't be Saudi Arabia because the daughter of Babylon sits on many waters. And Saudi Arabia has not many waters. It's not Saudi Arabia. Who listens to Saudi Arabia? Nobody. The UAE maybe, Jordan maybe. Nobody listens to Saudi Arabia. Okay, it says that the daughter of Babylon sits on many waters. The Atlantic, Gulf of Mexico, Pacific, Great Lakes, 8,000 rivers, and about that many lakes. What does Saudi Arabia have? Nothing. They say it's in Mecca or Medina. It's dry desert there. It says mingled people. America's a great mixing pot. What mingled people is in Saudi Arabia? They're all Muslim. It says the nations gather to her. That's the UN in New York or their embassies in Washington, D.C. They don't gather to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is the great voice, the hammer of the whole earth. Who the heck listens to Saudi Arabia? Nobody. It doesn't fit any one piece of the puzzle. Okay. I have a lot of Bible studies in my YouTube channel. They're in the live section because they do them as live streams and then they archive them as videos, so you got to go to the live section. I have a website about the daughter of Babylon. It's moshehakon.com. MOSHEHACOHEN.com. And you can study prophecy there, spiritual warfare, lots of things, okay? You can send me an email if you want the link. I have a Telegram channel where I post all the details of the wars in the Middle East, maybe 100 or 200 posts a day. It's free. You download Telegram Messenger. It's free. Send me an email. My email address is in the chat. It's in the bottom line down in the description box. It's Israel Giving with the number 7. Israel Giving, one word with the digit 7 at the end at gmail.com. If you want the Telegram link, say send me the Telegram link and I'll send you the invite link. You click on it with the app installed and you're in. You want the website, I'll send you the website link. You want, tell me what you want, I'll send it to you. You know. Please pray for me and my wife Rivka for our peace, safety, protection, and joy, healing of our bodies. Pray for our finances and health, and pray for our animals and pets, which are all rescues, to be happy, healthy, and whole. And pray for better videos and the peace of Jerusalem. And I can't cover everything in one video because I'd be here for 9 or 10 hours. And I'd fall down. I couldn't do it. It's very hard. You get tired from here to here. And, you know, because I'm not only, I understand it, but I've got to make you understand it, and that can be difficult. And I can't go read all these different chapters in the Bible. It'd be here forever. So I've got a lot of videos in the live section on YouTube. They're all free, of course, and enjoy it. I'll keep doing more and more, so you might want to subscribe, and I'm going to keep explaining this. America is in a snare. It says that in Jeremiah 50 and 51. And actually, I'll give you that verse. Jeremiah 50:24. I'll read that. I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babel, and thou wast not aware. Thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven against the Lord. He helped Netanyahu do what they did. They want to get Iran, I think. But what Biden is really doing is he's working with the beast to destroy the daughter of Babylon. That's what the beast wants. He wants to go to idolatry. And Biden's, remember, we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but the powers of the air. The powers of the air are the unclean spirits, and Biden's working with them, and that's why the border's open, and that's why he's entrenching much of the military in the Pacific region. And China didn't even have to start a war with Taiwan to get him to send a lot of his military there. And then North Korea is intimidating South Korea, so there's more military there. And now he's got military all over the Middle East, and he's going to have to attack the Houthis on the ground. He may attack Lebanon, and ultimately I think he'll attack Iran. And that will keep the American military abroad. Russia will attack NATO countries, and Iran and Russia and China are going to try to keep the fight outside of their homeland. Iran might not be able to do that. North Korea may not be able to do that, but Russia and China will. And they're the kingpin players of this axis of resistance, or whatever you want to call it, axis of evil. And America will turn her back on Israel. And the scripture is Jeremiah 50:44, I believe. Behold, he shall come up like a lion from the swelling of the Jordan unto the habitation of the strong. That's us. But I will make them suddenly run away. That's the daughter of Babylon. America comes like a lion and suddenly runs away from her, being Israel. And who is the chosen man that may appoint over her? Okay, so America is going to leave the area eventually, probably when the fighting rule starts, and they're going to insist the military come home or whatever. See, they're dragging America, they're dragging Israel into a snare. They're giving Israel all the bombs and bullets and stuff, and then letting Israel open up all these multiple fronts. And then when Israel's very much engaged, they'll just pull away. Biden wants Israel divided. He keeps giving money to the Palestinian Authority. He wants a two-state solution, which means we open up a Palestinian state in the West Bank and they'll just turn it into another Gaza to kill us. And he wants to keep Hamas in Gaza. And that's why you're going to see the fighting ruler in America. It's going to be divided like we are. We're fighting a civil war at the same time in Jenin and Hebron and Ramallah and in the West Bank with their militants inside Israel that are shooting our soldiers with AK-47s, throwing Molotovs, grenades, having shoulder-fired rockets inside Israel. See, Netanyahu let all this happen because he's in on it, and he's the curse of Israel. His days are over. So God's going to end this government of Israel very soon. When you see Zechariah 12, there is no more IDF or government of Israel. It's the two witnesses only. So it's going to come to an end pretty quick. And people don't know this, and they listen to the church teachers with their bullcrap and malarkey, and they don't know what's going to happen. But the church is going to fall apart very soon when people realize what's happening in America and their secret left behind rapture never came to pass. There is no left behind rapture. And if it never came to pass, well, they're going to be very mad at the church. But that doesn't mean they're going to turn to God either, because they're not really God-fearing. They do what they want, And they break the scriptures all over the place, and you can't even talk to them, they ignore you. So that's it, kids. So, I'll be doing more and more of this because America is going to light up. And those of you that are true believers are going to wind up in Israel pretty soon, which is the safest place to be, but just for believers. But it's not designed to look that way. It's designed to look other than that. But it is the safest place for true believers. And there is my talk for today. And let me look at the chat before I go in case something is there that I need to deal with. Look, it's not Saudi Arabia. You're deceiving yourself if you think it is. It doesn't anywhere meet the test of Jeremiah 50:51. The UAE, the same thing with wealth and riches, as Kuwait, as Oman. I mean, there's a lot of these places. None of them are the daughter of Babylon. They're not the grace voice. They're not the hammer of the whole earth. They're nothing. Come on, it's ridiculous. You're barking up the wrong tree. All right, I'm out. Thank you. I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I'm out.